everyone, welcome to Try Right. This is Pack 365, myself Srija. So today in this session, you're going to learn about the anatomy of external auditory canal and also the introduction to the middle ear. So coming to external auditory canal. So external auditory canal, it is a curved tube that carries sound waves from the auricle, external ear to the tympanic membrane, eardrum. So it protects the tympanic membrane and also helps in the sound conduction. So what are the length and dimensions of EAC? So the length is 2.5 to 3 centimeter. So this extends from the concha to the tympanic membrane. It slightly is longer in males. So it is a coming to shape, it is a S-shaped curve. So this S shape, it is important because this is S shape, it protects the eardrum from the direct entry of the foreign objects. So it helps to maintain the temperature and humidity inside the canal. It also makes to examine with an otoscope slightly challenging. So what is the composition of the canal? So the canal is divided into two main parts. Lateral 1/3 cartilaginous part and the medial 2/3 bony part. So the lateral 1/3 part, it is the cartilaginous part, it is the outer 1/3 part. So this is flexible and it contains the glands and also the hair. It is more prone to the inflammation, that is otitis externa. So the next is medial part. The medial, which is it covers 2/3 part of the canal. So it is a bony part. It is formed by temporal bone. It is very sensitive and it has a pain on slightest touch because of the skin is very thin. So whenever removing the earwax, you have to avoid the inner bony canal because touching it causes the severe pain. So now coming to structure of the external auditory canal. So what is the structure? Cartilaginous part and also the bony part. So let's go into brief description about these parts. So this part, it contains the structure important for protection, lubrication, infection, prevention. So what does it contain? Hair follicles, sebaceous glands and also the ceruminous glands. So these hair follicles, they helps to trap the dust and insects. So these are more prominent in adults, especially in the elderly men. So what does the sebaceous glands do? They produce the oil secretion. So it also mixes with the cerumen to maintain the moisture and prevent the dryness. So next is ceruminous glands. So these are the modified apocrine sweat glands. They produce the cerumen, which is also called as the earwax. So what are the functions of the earwax? Cerumen is antibacterial, antifungal and also protects the canal by trapping dust, preventing insects from entering, repelling water and also maintaining the acidic pH, which helps to prevent the bacterial growth. So too much cerumen can cause the conductive hearing loss, but complete removal makes the canal prone to infection. So why is the outer 1/3 cartilaginous part is very flexible? So it allows movement of the canal during the jaw movements. It also helps in sound resonance and it reduces the risk of injury. Now, why is inner 2/3 bony part is sensitive? So because of there is no fat in the inner bony part, there are no glands. So it has only the very thin skin directly over the bone. It is highly innervated and also it causes the sharp pain whenever touched. So the right side, you can see the diagram of the external auditory canal and the green color part is the cartilaginous part, which is 1/3 part. And the red color one, it's the osseous part, nothing but it's a bony part, which is 2/3 part of the canal. So this is the outer part, it is outer flexible with the glands. Whereas the inner bony part, it is bony and sensitive. And you can also see this auditory orifice, which is the opening of the ear canal, and internal carotid artery, it is the important nearby the structure. So next coming to the bony part. So bony part, it is formed by the temporal bone. It is lined with very thin skin. Actually, I have said you right. It consists of no fat and there are no bones present within the bony part. It is also very sensitive. Whenever we touch it, you can feel the pain. So next coming to the tympanic membrane. So tympanic membrane, it is also called as eardrum, right? So it is technically part of both the external ear and also the middle ear boundary. So this tympanic membrane, it's a thin, semi-transparent, highly specialized membrane which forms the boundary between the external ear and also the middle ear. So although this belongs to the external ear anatomically, it is functionally connected to the middle ear through the ossicles. So what is the location and overall function of this tympanic membrane? It is located at the end of the external auditory canal. So this serves as the first structure for the sound conduction. So it converts the sound waves into the mechanical vibrations. So this eardrum, it also provides the protection for the middle ear by preventing the entry of foreign bodies as well as the microbes. So what is the structure of this tympanic membrane? So there are layers of the tympanic membrane. The outer layer skin, middle layer fibrous layer, and the inner layer is mucous membrane. So this outer layer skin, it is continuous with the external auditory canal. So it is very sensitive to pain. It is supplied by the fifth cranial nerve branch and also by the auricular branch of 10th cranial nerve. So next is the middle layer, which is the fibrous layer, which is mesodermal. So the outer is ectodermal, middle is mesodermal, and the inner is endodermal. So middle layer, it gives strength and tension to the tympanic membrane. So it is made up of radial and circular collagen fibers. So the pars tensa has its fibrous layer well, which is more developed. And this pars flaccida, it lacks this fibrous layer, which is making it softer. So what is the inner layer? The mucous layer, mucous membrane, also called as a mucosal layer, which is the endodermal layer. It is continuous with the mucous lining of the middle ear. So this is surrounded by the 9th cranial nerve, which is also called as the glossopharyngeal nerve. So these are the layers of the tympanic membrane. So next is the parts of the tympanic membrane. What are the parts of the tympanic membrane? Pars tensa and pars flaccida. So pars tensa, it's a major part of the tympanic membrane. You can clearly see this in this picture. Pars flaccida on the upper side and lower side pars tensa. So pars tensa, it's a major part. It accounts for more than 85% of the total surface. It is strong and taut due to well-developed fibrous layer. So what is the function of pars tensa? It is the main area for the sound transmission. It contributes to the cone of the light during the otoscopy. It is attached to the handle of malleus. So pars flaccida, it is also called as the Sharp-Nils membrane because it is a small superior triangular portion. So it is loose, thin, and it lacks the fibrous layer. So what is the clinical importance of pars flaccida? It is a site of the attic retraction pockets. So it is a common location for primary acquired cholesteatoma. So what are the key anatomical landmarks on the tympanic membrane as seen in this diagram? In the right side diagram. So you can find these malleus structures, the handle of malleus and the lateral process of malleus. So handle of malleus is also called as a manubrium, which is attached firmly to the inner surface of the tympanic membrane. Whereas this lateral process of the malleus, it is a small projection which is creating the visible folds. And the anterior and the posterior mallear folds, so these are the tissue folds that form the boundaries of the pars flaccida. So next is you can see this umbo structure. So umbo, this is the most depressed point of the tympanic membrane. So this is important for identifying the cone of the light. So what is the cone of the light over here? You can see in this picture, it is a triangular reflection which is seen in the anterior inferior quadrant during the otoscopy. So this is not an anatomical structure, it is only a light reflection. So absence may indicate the infection or fluid. So because of this, if this cone of light is absent, it may indicate the infection or fluid. So then is the annulus, which is a tympanic ring. It is a fibrocartilaginous ring anchoring the tympanic membrane to the temporal bone. So this is not specifically shown because it supports the tympanic membrane. So now how blood supply and nerve supply is done to the tympanic membrane. External surface and also internal surface. Coming to external surface, the blood is supplied through deep auricular artery, which is a branch of maxillary artery. Whereas coming to internal surface, the blood supply is supplied through anterior tympanic artery. So coming to nerve supply, outer surface, nerve supply is done by the third cranial nerve and also 10th cranial nerve, which is a branch of vagus. So through the inner surface by cranial nerve 9th, which is a glossopharyngeal nerve, through this the nerve impulses are supplied. Yeah, you can see this over here. Blood supply, the external auditory canal has very rich vascular supply from branches of the external carotid artery. So coming to how does the blood supply? I have said you like deep auricular artery. It is a branch of maxillary artery. So the main artery supplying is the cartilaginous part of the EAC, bony part of the EAC, and also the outer surface of the tympanic membrane. So it runs medially. So it mainly supplies the medial or inner aspect of the EAC. So what are the other arteries which are not mentioned over here, but they supply the blood? So they are posterior auricular artery and also superficial temporary artery. So the right side you can see a cross section of the external auditory canal anatomy. So the anterior side, the superficial temporary artery, which is the lateral part, and the posterior side, post-auricular artery. Inferior or medial, it's a deep auricular artery, and coming to superior, there is an arterial anastomosis. So this helps you how to understand the arterial networks encircling the ear canal. So this is how the blood supply to the various parts of the body. So next is the sensory nerve supply of the EAC. So EAC, it is notoriously pain sensitive because of the rich innervation. So how does the nerve supply done? So auriculotemporal nerve, which is a V3 nerve. It's a major sensory nerve. It is a branch of the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. So it supplies both the anterior and superior walls of the EAC. So it is the outer surface of the tympanic membrane. So while touching, the EAC is often painful because of its innervation. So next is the Arnold's nerve, which is a 10th cranial nerve. It is the auricular branch of the vagus nerve. So this applies to the posterior and inferior parts of the EAC. So if the stimulation of vagus, it leads to ear cuff reflex. Rarely, it can also cause the brachycardia due to vagal stimulation. So next nerve is facial nerve, which is a 7th cranial nerve. It is a minor sensory nerve. It contributes a small sensory branch to EAC. It explains why the pain from Harpus zoster oticus radiates into the ear canal. So next is the lymphatic drainage of the external auditory canal. So how the lymph drainage is done? Through parotid nodes and deep cervical lymph nodes. Parotid lymph nodes is through drain the lateral and superior portions of the EAC. So this is commonly enlarged in EAC infections like otitis externa and also like viral infections like measles and rubella. So next is the deep cervical lymph nodes. These drain the deep or bony part of the EAC. So these are important for advanced infections and also the malignancies. So this is how the blood is supplied, the sensory nerve is supplied and also the lymph is drained within the external auditory canal. So next coming to the physiology of the external ear. So we have discussed about the anatomy of the external ear. So now let's discuss about what are the functions of external ear. What does it do? So the external ear means it's a combination of, it has two parts. What are those? Auricle and external auditory canal, nothing but EAC. So this performs three major physiological functions. So let's look into them. The first one is sound collection, which is a primary function. So auricle, it acts as a funnel. So the auricle, it is large curved cartilaginous shape, right? It helps to capture the sound waves efficiently. It also channels the sound towards the external auditory canal and finally it reaches the tympanic membrane. So what is the effective frequency range? 2 to 5 kHz. So this is a speech frequency range. So human auricles are optimized by evolution to enhance these frequencies ranges. So this improves to speech recognition and also the communication. So now how the auricular shape helps. So there are ridges and depressions in the auricle, right? So this helix, antihelix, concha, what they do? They reflect, amplify and also they guide the sound waves. So these reflections, they helps to focus the sound energy onto the tympanic membrane. Then amplification is done by the EAC. So the external auditory canal, it acts like a resonating tube. The resonance occurs, further amplifying the speech sounds. So the external ear, it provides a natural gain of 10 to 5 dB for mid-frequency sounds. So what is the next function? Sound localization. Nothing but the direction detection. So the auricle helps the brain to determine where a sound is coming from. So there are two types of localization. One is vertical localization and the other is front-back differentiation. So what is vertical localization? It is caused by the reflections from the curves of the auricle. So sounds are coming from above, hit the ear differently compared to the sounds from below. So what happens next? The brain analyzes these differences to determine the vertical position, whether it is from down or whether it is from below or above. So this is how the vertical localization works, up versus down. So next, coming to the front back differentiation, auricle angles, they sounds differently based upon whether they come from front or back. So this prevents the confusion between the sounds behind and in front of you. So what is the mechanism here? The differences in timing and intensity. So the auricle causes spectral filtering. It modifies the sound frequency pattern slightly depending upon the direction. So the brain analyzes the interaural time difference and also the interaural intensity difference. So coming to interaural time difference, this is the difference in which the ear gets sound first, whereas intensity difference is which the ear hears it louder. So what is the important point over here which you have to remember is vertical and front back localization, they depend upon almost entirely on the auricle. So the horizontal left right localization, they depends mostly on both the ears. Nothing but they help in the brainstem processing but not the auricle alone. So this is the function of the sound localization. So next is sound conduction. So sound conduction, so this EAC is not just a hollow tube. It's a shape, length and acoustics. They play a major role in how we hear. So what is the sound conduction role? It conducts the sound waves to the tympanic membrane. So sound waves travel through EAC and they strike the tympanic membrane. So this converts the air vibrations into the mechanical vibrations. So the efficiency of hearing depends on how well the sound reaches the tympanic membrane. So next is the resonance. So resonance at 3K headset. So the ESC, it acts as a resonant tube which is closed at one end by the tympanic membrane. So the natural resonance frequency of this tube is around 2.5 to 3 kilohertz. So this is exactly how the speech frequency range, making human conversation very clear. So why 3K headset matters? Because the human speech consonants like F, S, T, K, S, H, so they fall in this frequency range. So resonance amplifies these sounds by 10 to 15 dB. So this is a natural hearing aid built into the ear. So then it increases the sound pressure at the eardrum. The resonance plus narrowing of this canal, what does they do? They increases the sound pressure on the tympanic membrane. So the higher the pressure, the stronger the vibrations and it will be a better sound conduction. So the combination of the auricle plus EAC, it provides about 20 dB of sound gain for the mid-frequency sounds. So this is about the sound conduction. So next is the protection of midline inner ear function. So the external ear, it uses two types of mechanisms like physical protection and also the chemical or biological protection. So this safeguard the delicate midline inner ear structures. So the A is physical protection. So in physical protection, this is a S-shaped canal. So the EAC is not straight. It has two bends which resembles the S shape. So what does it do? It blocks directly the entry of the foreign objects. So it protects the tympanic membrane from trauma. It also makes to insect the penetration difficulty. So there are tiny hairs like cilia, which are present mainly in the cartilaginous part of the canal. So this cilia, they trap the dust, small particles and also the foreign debris. So they also just assist in pushing the wax outward. So what is the role of cerumen ear wax in this physical protection? So cerumen, it's a sticky and oil secretion which is produced by the ceruminous glands and also the sebaceous glands. So this cerumen, they trap the insect and dust. So it also prevents the drying of skin in the canal. So it forms a protective film over the canal walls. So this is how the physical protection does. So next is the chemical or biological protection. So cerumen is not just sticky. So it also has the biochemically protective functions. So cerumen contains the lysozymes, which are antibacterial, which have antibacterial properties, and these antibacterial lysosomes, earwax contain the lysosomes, which are the enzymes that can destroy the bacterial cell walls. So this provides a natural antimicrobial defense to reduce the infection of the EAC. So the acidic pH, it results in the prevention of the microbial growth. So the cerumen has a slightly acidic pH. So most bacteria cannot grow well in the acidic environments, right? So this helps to keep the external ear canal free from the harmful bacteria and also the fungi. And there are some lubricating oils which prevent the dryness and cracking of the skin, because the ear canal skin is thin and delicate, so that the cerumen contains lipids and oils which keep this skin moist. So it also prevents the dryness, fissures and micro cracks, which are the entry points for the infections. So the next function is the temperature and humidity regulation. So this helps to maintain a stable environment for the eardrum vibration. So the external ear canal, it helps to regulate the temperature as well as humidity. So the stable conditions are essential because the eardrum, they vibrates best in a controlled environment. So excess dryness or humidity, they can affect this vibration properties of the eardrum, which leads to altering the sound conduction. So you have to think of the ear canal like a microclimate chamber which protects the eardrum's mechanical function. And the last function is tympanic membrane function. So what is the function of eardrum? Tympanic membrane is a thin oval semi-transparent membrane which is separating the external ear from the middle ear. So it converts the sound waves into mechanical vibrations, right? We have discussed this many times till now. So sound waves enter the ear canal, they strike the eardrum, then the eardrum vibrates just like a drum skin. So this process converts the air pressure waves into the mechanical movements. So next is the vibrates in response to the sound pressure. So the amplitude, the strength and the frequency or the pitch of the sound waves, they determine the pattern of the vibration. So these vibrations, they are precise and sensitive, allowing the accurate sound perception. So it also transmits the vibrations to the malleus. So the malleus is the first ossicle, right? It is a part of three ossicles of the ear. It is attached to the inner surface of the tympanic membrane. So whenever the eardrum vibrates, it moves the malleus. So this brings the ossicular chain that leads to the inner ear. And this tympanic membrane, it is also highly sensitive and tuned for speech frequencies. It responds best to the frequencies between 500 to 4000 Hz, which is a range of the human speech. So this tuning allows the clear understanding of the conversations and also the subtle speech sounds. So this is about the physiology of the external ear. So this is about the anatomy and both the physiology of the external ear. So now let's go into the middle ear. A brief or a short introduction about the middle ear. Later on we will discuss this briefing within the next session. So what is the middle ear? Middle ear is also called as a tympanic cavity. It is a small air-filled chamber which is located at the petrous part of the temporal bone. So what are the two main functions of this middle ear? It transmits the sound, it amplifies the sound, it maintains the equal air pressure. So transmitting sound means it receives the vibrations from the tympanic membrane and it passes them to the inner ear through the ossicles. And also it amplifies the sound. Like the middle ear, it increases the force of the sound vibrations so they can pass efficiently from outer ear to the inner ear. It also maintains the equal air pressure, means the Eustachian tube. It helps to maintain the equal pressure on both sides of the eardrum. So the membrane vibrates accurately. So this middle ear, what are the structures of the middle ear? It consists of tympanic cavity, ossicles, middle ear muscles, Eustachian tubes and also the mastoid air cells. So tympanic cavity, it is a narrow air-filled space behind the tympanic membrane. It is divided into three parts again, the upper, middle and lower part. Next are ossicles, which are also called as ear bones, malleus incus stapes. So these are the smallest bones in the human body and they form a chain across the middle ear. So next is the middle ear muscles. So these are the tiny protective muscles that control the sound transmission. So there are two muscles which are present within the middle ear. They are tensor tympani and also the stapedius muscle. So next is Eustachian tube. So this connects the middle ear to the nasopharynx. This equalizes the air pressure on both sides of the eardrum. The main function of this is the equalizing the air pressure. So the last is mastoid air cells. So mastoid air cells are nothing but these are the honeycomb-like air spaces in the mastoid part of the temporal bone. So these are connected to the middle ear. And here you can see a clear picture of the middle ear. It consists of ear canal, tympanic membrane, tympanic cavity, Eustachian tube, and malleus incus stapes, the three ear bones, semicircle canals, cochlea, vestibular nerve, and also the cochlear nerve. So this is for today's session. So in this next session, we are going to learn about a brief anatomy and both the physiology of middle ear. So we have just learned about this introduction in this session. You are going to learn into brief about the middle ear in the next session. Thank you.